Hello, Allen University. You know, folks, there's only one reason I'd ever consider trying to run for president, to get her to make that speech again. She never says that in private. It is true, as Jim can tell you, in Washington, I'm known as Jill's husband. I am proud of it. And I did have to ask her, I'm embarrassed. I did have to ask her 5 times whether she'd marry me. Finally, the 5th time I came back from a trip, I was in Africa as a senator, and I came back, knocked on her apartment door. I said, you've got my Irish pride up now. I'm only going to ask you one more time. And I said, but before I do, you don't have to tell me when, just tell me if you'll marry me. Will you marry me? She said, yes. I didn't ask any more questions. Then my sister, who's her best friend, said, Jill, what made you change your mind? And the true answer was, she said, I fell in love with the boys. I'll take her on any terms. Folks, I want to say to my friend Jim Clyburn, you know, I've served in the United States Senate for a long time. I've been the vice president for now about 6 years. And I don't know a man who has a greater combination of heart, intellect, determination, and fierce pride than your Congressman Jim Clyburn. I really mean it. I really mean it. I don't, Jim is Assistant Democratic Leader. Jim is fully capable of being the Speaker of the House. Jim is fully capable of being anything he wants to be. And I say that because it's important to know. It's important to know, you know, you see somebody down here and you see someone in Washington. And I can tell you, if you come to Washington and watch Jim, there's not one bit of difference. He's the same exact guy in Washington he is here in South Carolina, and that's why he's respected by so many people on both sides of the aisle. And Dr. Cole, Madam President, it's an honor to be here at Allen University. I tell you what, I got a chance to meet Bishop Norris and James Harris, the chairman of the South Carolina Democratic Party. And folks, this is an important election, to state the obvious. Jill says I'm optimistic, and when you read about me in the national press, they call me the White House optimist. I am optimistic. And the reason I am, as I look at all of you, the reason I am, I know the history of the journey of this country. Whenever the American people have been even given just an even shot, they have never, ever let their country down. There is no reason not to be optimistic about America. Let me put this election in perspective. We know the economy got clobbered during the Great Recession. And we know, when you read about those of you who are students of economics here, in a macroeconomic sense, in a large sense, the economy has come back. The fact of the matter is, last month unemployment fell below 6% for the first time since 2008. We've had a record 55 months of private sector job growth, over 10 million new jobs. We've reduced the federal deficit as a share of our economy by 50%. But as much progress as we made, an awful lot of folks I grew up with and a lot of folks you grew up with, we in fact are being left behind. The gap between the wealthiest and everyone else in this country has grown wider. And that's the widest it's been since 1928. In 1928, 1% of the American people made about 24% of all the money earned in America. Today, just 1% makes almost 25% of all the money made in America. Right now, the average chief executive officer of the major corporations makes 331 times what the average employee makes. Back when Reagan was president, it was only 42 times. And since the year 2000, the middle class and the working class in this country have been stagnant. The total increase in wages on average has been 14 cents. So while all this money is being made, while all this is moving in terms of this wide gap in earning power in America, the middle class has been under pressure. And this is about all of you. This is about your parents, those of your students here. It's about hardworking Americans. It means that mom or dad has to take an extra job to pay the bills, to work like the devil to keep you in school. It means a family that wants their child to go to college and can't afford it is looking for another way. I don't know how many people in the neighborhood I grew up in over the last 4 years, mom and dad have sat at that kitchen table and asked one another, who's going to tell? Who's going to tell Sasha? Who's going to tell Michael? Who's going to tell them that they can't go back to school this semester because we just can't make it? I remember when I was going to school, I was a relatively good athlete, so I had a chance to get some scholarship help. I remember going down to see my dad where he worked. He managed an automobile dealership. And I asked Mary, the woman who ran the showroom, where he was. And he said, he's out by the lane out there, Joey. I walked out and my dad was pacing back and forth, true story. And he looked up at me and said, Joey, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm ashamed. I'm so sorry. And I thought, God, what had happened? There were no cell phones in those days. And he looked at me and he said, Joey, I went to the bank to see if I could borrow the money to help you get there. They won't lend me the money. I'm so sorry. It's not just a kid who doesn't get a shot. It's all those mothers and fathers who look at their beautiful sons and daughters and know their possibilities are limitless, but know there's not much they can do to help them get the shot that they want. These other guys don't quite get it. I don't know where they come from. I'm not making a moral judgment, but I don't know what they don't understand. My dad used to have an expression. He'd say, Joey, after he had to move from Scranton, Pennsylvania, because he couldn't make it on the salary he was making, he couldn't raise us. And I remember him making what I call the longest walk any parent has to make, up a short flight of stairs to their child's bedroom to say, honey, you can't go to the same school next year. You can't play in that ball club. Dad lost the house, or Dad lost a job, or we got to go. I remember we were living in my grandpa's house, and him telling me that. And ever since that time, that's how we got to Wilmington, Delaware. And he got a job, was able to bring us all down a year later. From that point on, every time someone would talk about a job, my dad would say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about your place in your community. It's about who you are. It's about being able to look your child in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. Too many Americans today are struggling with being able to say, it's going to be okay. Too many college graduates are going home and sleeping on their parents' couch because they're not a good enough job. Look, I know what those conversations are like. Like I said, a lot of your families have been through the same kinds of things. But ladies and gentlemen, we can change all this. It's not that hard to change it. As I said, there used to be a basic bargain in America. And the bargain was, if you worked hard, if you increased, if you were the reason why your company made a profit, you got to share in the profit. It used to be We had a bargain in America. If you made it work, you got to share in everything. But that's not happening now. Profits have soared in America, the major corporations. But wages have been stagnant for working men and women. The bargain's been broken, and people are losing confidence in their ability to make it. And they have doubts. For the first time, over 50% of the American people said, when asked, is a college education worth it? They turned and said, 52% said no. Why? Because they can't incur the debt. They don't know what to do with their children graduating from colleges in debt. And they're worried whether or not their kids will make it. It's real basic, folks. We have a fundamental disagreement with the Republican Party. If you listen to their rhetoric, they talk about how much they care about us all. They say they care about the middle class. They say they value education. They say they value the environment. They say they want to preserve Medicare. They say we should have better roads, bridges, ports, canals. They say they value job creation. Well, my dad, Joe Biden, used to have an expression. When someone would come up to my dad and say, Joe, let me tell you what I value. And I swear this is true. He'd look at him and say, don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget. I will tell you what you value. Show me your budget. I will tell you what to value. So let's look at their budget. Look at the budget of your governor. Look at the budget of the House Republicans and all the Republicans running on the same ticket. They passed the same budget the last 4 years. They called for another $3 trillion in tax cuts, but for only people making over $1 million. They called for a raise in taxes on middle-class people to pay for it by $2,000. I'm not making this up. This is in their budget. They call for budget cuts of $6.7 billion in education when they know it's the ladder up. They cut Pell Grants. 85% of you in this college are here in part because of Pell Grants. One of the proudest things the president has done is that 9 million more students are in school today because of Pell Grants we increased. 2.5 million more students are in college because of that tax cut, that tax credit of $22,500 a year. They want to cut it. They want to eliminate Medicare, not cut it back, eliminate it. They call for voucherizing it. Voucher simply means, get this straight, it means that Medicare is no longer a guaranteed program. You will get a check in a single amount for the year to go out and buy what health insurance you can. And the CBO says, the Congressional Budget Office, you're going to come up $6,800 short. Good luck, Mom. Go out and find the best deal you can afford. And you're not going to get what you have now. Look, folks, even when the federal government is paying 100% for Medicaid expansion, your governor's denying 200,000 South Carolinians Medicaid. 200,000 because she opposes expansion. And folks, Jim pointed out, it affects the elderly and children and the working poor. It also affects the middle class. Do you realize all those folks out there, God love them, who have an autistic child or someone with a chronic disease, a child? They, in fact, can be making $120,000 a year. And it costs them $48,000 a year to care for that child. But for Medicare, they wouldn't qualify. 70% of all the people in nursing homes are women. The vast majority of them did not come out of poverty. They're middle-class women who, in fact, worked their whole lives but don't have a family now. The only reason they're able to be in that home is because of Medicaid. Ladies and gentlemen, where do these guys come from? I'm serious. What are they thinking? Ladies and gentlemen, they say they value research and development, yet they propose cutting the National Institute of Health, all the research they do, by $4.5 billion per year. Folks, the idea that these guys value the same things we do is just so far from the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, America has always done well when we've acted as one America. There used to be the time when we got in trouble. Not only did they ask for more responsibility from folks who were working, the wealthy paid a lot more. The wealthy stepped up. They were in the bargain too. Everybody paid a fair share. Folks, there's one other point I want to make to you all. We're in a situation right now where when one voice is diminished, everyone is diminished. First and foremost, we got to start by asking the right questions here. There was a writer that some of you have studied, Thomas Pynchon, who said, and I quote, "If they get you asking the wrong questions, they don't have to worry about the answers." If they get you asking the wrong questions, they don't have to worry about the answers. Look at the questions we've been wrestling with, quote unquote, the last several years. Are corporations overtaxed? Are you kidding me? Is Wall Street overregulated? Look, there's real questions out there. Why is it fair for someone making $500 million manage a hedge fund paying 17%, and someone works at the BMW plant making $52,000 a year is paying at 25%? That's the question. Why is it fair? Why is it fair that 20 million people are working 40 hours a week and living $5,000, $6,000 under the poverty level? Why is that fair? Why is it fair to cut Pell Grants and student aid in order to pay for a $3 trillion tax cut over 10 years? And why would a child from a disadvantaged home grows up hearing 30 million fewer words spoken by the time they start school? Why does it make sense to cut early education? Why? We know that preschool for all is the single most significant and effective way to guarantee success of students. Why? Why would they do that? Why does it make sense, which they propose, to cut $1.2 billion a year from the Environmental Protection Agency, while sea levels from Delaware through South Carolina to Florida are rising, putting our states in jeopardy? Why? Why does it make sense to oppose building new roads, building bridges, creating good jobs? Why? It used to be a bipartisan deal. Republicans used to be for it as much as Democrats. Look, folks, the United States, you students are about to live through one of the most exciting periods in the history of the world. One of the most exciting periods, no, for real. America is on the precipice of being the leading economy in the world for the remainder of this first half of this century. Ladies and gentlemen, North America, Mexico, the United States, and Canada is the epicenter of energy for the 21st century. America will be energy independent in the 2020s. We have more gas and oil rigs going today than all the rest of the world combined. All of it. Energy, renewable energy. We have the best research universities in the world. We have the most adaptive venture capitalists. We have a legal system that adjudicates claims fairly, protects intellectual property. We have the most productive workers in the world, 3 times more productive than workers in China. Ladies and gentlemen, All we have to do is use our heads. All we have to do is use our heads. If we invest in research and development, you're going to have automobiles you plug in are going to go 300 miles in a single plug-in. You're going to see cures, you students will see cures for cancer by the time you're 35 years old. Breakthroughs in Alzheimer's, fundamental changes in the health of Americans. But we need two things. We need the best infrastructure in the world and the most highly skilled workforce in the world. Because guess what? Guess what? People are coming home. You're not hearing any more about outsourcing. You're hearing about insourcing. And don't just take my word for it. There's an outfit called A.T. Kearney. It's one of the leading management firms in the world. Every year they do a study. They go to the 400 largest industrialists in the world, and they ask the question, where is the best place in the world to invest? This year, by a margin larger than any time in the 30-some years they've been doing the survey, overwhelmingly they said the United States of America is the best place to invest. The United States of America, in every area. There's an outfit up in Boston called the Boston Consulting Group. I say this to you students, called the Boston Consulting Group. They ask a question of every American corporation that has a plant or a facility in China. And they ask the same question every year. They say, what are your plans for next year? This March, their survey showed 54% of those corporations say they're considering coming home, back to the United States. That means jobs. That means jobs. But folks, we have to invest in making sure we have the most skilled workforce in the world. That's why we're partnering with community colleges and colleges like this to train people for the jobs that are available now, 100,000 jobs in high-tech manufacturing. We're going to need 1.4 million new IT jobs, average salary $80,000 a year. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got to invest. These guys are stopping us from being able to do that. Our infrastructure, the reason companies come and stay is if they can get their product out to the world quicker and cheaper. That's where they go. That's why I work so hard with Jim to make sure the Port of Charleston will be able to handle these Panamax ships, which are 50% bigger than the ships that flow across the ocean today. Ladies and gentlemen, there's one more thing we have to ask, and maybe it's the most fundamental, and I'll let you go. Why, without any proof of voter fraud, have 81 bills been introduced in state legislative bodies, including here in South Carolina, to make it harder for people to vote? Why? No fraud, why? Tell me why. When I was a senior in college, Dr. King wrote a famous letter from the jail in Selma. He said, voting is the foundation stone of political action. And I would add, political action is the engine that drives not only civil rights, but economic rights. Since 2010, 7 out of 11 states with the highest African American turnout have passed laws restricting voting. 7 to 10, including right here in South Carolina. 9 out of the 12 states with the highest Hispanic population have also passed restrictive voting rights. 10 states have introduced bills to make it harder to register to vote. The very issue that sparked Bloody Sunday at the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma 50 years ago. Folks, we've crossed that bridge. We cannot go back. We have to stand up. It's time to stand up and fight back. The voter ID law in South Carolina is in effect for this election. But you cannot let it deter you from voting. Let people know. Let your parents know. The reason they passed this bill is to keep them from voting, slow up their voting. Once they know that, they will stand up. They will show up because we have to get the vote out. We have to move forward. Let me give you one example. President Obama and I won the state of Florida by 73,000 votes. We won the African American vote by about 1,125,000. But here's what it means. If the restrictive voting law they had, if only 6% of the African American vote didn't vote, we would have lost Florida. Just 6%. These guys know what they're doing, man. And we've got to let them know we know what they're doing too. It's not about Barack Obama and Joe Biden. It's about the right of the American people to choose who they want their leader to be. Folks, we are on the precipice of a potentially a new day. I'm counting on you. It's time for us to stand up and make no apologies for what we believe in. It's time for us to turn out every single vote. And when we do in the state of South Carolina, you will elect a new governor if you vote. You will elect a new legislature. And you will begin to change not only the South, you'll begin to change the country. God bless you all. Go out and vote. Vote now. You're able to. God bless our troops as well. Thank you.